Ever wondered what it was like to live a million years ago? Well, look it up on Google. This film is for entertainment purposes only. Hi guys, so before we get into it, the usual reminder that you'll find all my other Hammer reviews in my Hammer playlist, and there will be spoilers today. In fact, let me put you out of your misery. The human race survives this film and goes on to populate the rest of the earth over thousands of decades, whereas all the big dinosaur type creatures die off. There you go. So I decided to watch this film on the back of having enjoyed another of Hammer's fantasy films, a film called She, which I also reviewed a few weeks back. But coming into this, I was sure that I'd seen some of these types of movies from back when I was a kid, because Hammer did lots of these prehistoric caveman and cavewomen type things, and I was sure I'd seen one or two. So while I was waiting for my Blu-ray of this to arrive, I went on Hammer's filmography and looked up the plots of the films that they did that are like this. And sure enough, I know now that I've seen the one that's called The Creatures the World Forgot. I've seen that before. None of the other ones, though, including this one. So this was a first-time watch for me. It is set a million years or so ago, but it's not historically accurate, if that bothers you. I certainly wouldn't recommend history teachers put this on in high school or anything like that. Now, I'm no historian myself, but I'm pretty sure that humans weren't even around a million years ago. I'm confident on that. But I could believe that maybe dinosaurs were around a million years ago. So possibly what's going on in this film is that we're in a dinosaur time period, but human characters, in this story at least, came along a lot earlier, maybe. It's not just dinosaurs that are in this, though. I thought that it would be. I mean, on the Blu-ray box, there's a picture on the front of a dinosaur, and on the back, there's another type of dinosaur. But we get other creatures as well. So there's a giant iguana. It's like some kind of mad scientist went around the landscape before this film begins with some kind of weird ray gun and just pointed it at various animals and blew them up to stupid sizes, like Honey, I Blew Up the Kid or something like that. So yeah, a giant iguana, a giant tarantula. I really didn't want to see that. I don't like spiders. A giant sea turtle. It's built like an armoured tank, this thing. It's absolutely frightening. So this is a really frightening world for human characters to try and live in. So in terms of story, we follow this one particular tribe early on as they're just going around trying to survive as best they can. They're very primitive. They don't speak any kind of language, really. They just mostly grunt to each other. But one character called Chumak, he gets cast out very early and he's forced to just start wandering over the barren landscapes all by himself, which is not the safest thing to do. He eventually comes across this other tribe near the sea, which is more socially advanced. It's got more of a community spirit about it. So it becomes like the destiny of this film, really, that the two tribes will eventually clash, and you've got all these weird creatures popping up from time to time, and there'll be a big explosion in like a volcano near the end, which will make bits of the Earth's crust come up. It was directed by a guy called Don Chaffey, who I've never heard of, but apparently he did direct that film I mentioned earlier, The Creatures the World Forgot. Acting-wise, there are lots of people in this I recognise, though. There are quite a few James Bond alumni. So Robert Brown, who went on to play M, he's in it. Martine Beswick, who was in at least 2 James Bond films from memory, and also some other Hammer films. John Richardson, who was in that film She, that I reviewed a few weeks ago. But the main star is absolutely Raquel Welch. Now, even though I've never seen another Raquel Welch film, and even though I've never seen this film before, I was still very much aware of just how iconic Welch is from having appeared in this one film. I mean, that still of her in the fur bikini with the dinosaur in the background, that's a famous image. You know, most people who know films will be aware of that and its cultural significance, and the fact that Raquel Welch is the actress. Most people will be aware of that, regardless of whether they've actually seen the movie. Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne's jail cell has a picture of Raquel Welch in this film, and it's covering the hole that he eventually climbs through. Excuse me. The next time I watch that film, it's going to be extra cool for me now, because I've seen 1 million years ago BC. Welch absolutely brings the Hammer glamour in this. I mean, I can't really say she brings a whole lot else, because this film didn't really require massive acting chops. It's all done in the body language and the face, and Welch is fine with that, but mainly she's scintillating in this film because of her looks. I mean, she is absolutely stunning. She just brings it in this film, and then some more. She's fantastic. The battles between the large creatures and the human characters in this are surprisingly effective. I wasn't sure how all the old school stop motion stuff would hold up through 2022 goggles, but they absolutely do, in my opinion. The other night when I put this on, it was just when my kids were about to go to bed, and you know how when you buy a Blu-ray, the menu screen will often be like a series of clips from the movie you're about to watch, just playing on repeat with a bit of dramatic music. It's never usually just a still picture. Well, I had the menu screen just on the TV while I was brushing the kids' teeth, and my oldest son looked at some of these little clips of dinosaurs and things and said, "Oh, that just looks so old and bad." He's into all his modern day Jurassic Park movies and what have you. But I've got to say, personally, I found this film scarier than Jurassic World Dominion that I watched at the cinema just a few months ago. Just the way that the way that they film real creatures for this, like iguanas, spiders, and then just blow them up and put them on the screen right in front of your eyes, right next to these actors, it has a hell of an effect. I mean, the first time that it happens in this, when Chumac fights the iguana, I was really on edge. There's no music as well, which just adds to it, and I thought they might kill off the Chumac character at this point. I thought it might be like a bait and switch type thing, because I knew Welch hadn't turned up at this point yet. So I thought, okay, maybe they'll kill Chumac here and then Welch will take over, but I like how all the individual battles in this are very... they have a lot of variety in them in terms of how they end. So Chumac, he sees this giant spider at one point and just goes in completely the opposite direction. We don't get a fight. Absolutely fine with that. There's another battle or confrontation with like a sea turtle thing, and I like how that ends with the sea turtle just going into the sea and deciding it's had enough, because this thing is way too armoured to take down. And yet at the same time, I don't want the sea turtle to win either. So the way that they finish that thing off is sensible, you know. A lot of the battles in this are quite grueling, but in a good way. So often you'll have just like a big creature and a few people around it with like a spear, like ducking and weaving and trying to prod it, but it's kept realistic. You know, there's no superhuman feats of characters suddenly like destroying creatures 5 times bigger than them in ways where you think, oh, it's only a movie. They'd never get away with that in a real world environment. You know, things are genuinely... Once you get over the fact that you have all these unrealistic creatures in the film, once they're there, the action between them and the humans is kept very believable. You know, there's nothing silly going on. Towards the end, the creatures do get forgotten a little bit when the two tribes get ready for their final battle, but there's still one really cool shot of the iguana going down into the Earth's crust because it just can't survive what's happened with the volcano and the lava, and that there's kind of an indication there that these creatures will eventually die off because of climate change and the crust moving around and stuff like that. But it's weird how there's only seemingly one of each type of creature in this film, because I'm sure the iguana that you see going into the earth at the end is the same one that was fighting Chumac earlier on. It's like somebody flew over this landscape in an ark, a Noah's Ark type spaceship, and just dropped off one of each type of creature as some kind of weird social experiment, and maybe the human characters would be allowed more of one of them just to make it a fair fight kind of a thing. The relationships between the human characters is fascinating. The hierarchy of certainly the first tribe is almost like that of a wolf pack. You know, if they've got a carcass of an animal that they've cooked, the tribe leader will get to dive in and get what food he wants first, and then everybody else can follow up and grab what they can. But I think the idea is that, you know, the strong will get a lot of food, whereas maybe the younger and the weaker people, by the time they get to the carcass, there might not be much left on the bone, so they might not survive long term. It's full of cruelty, this tribe. People just squabble and die for very little reason from time to time. Like, there's this one moment early on where this old guy falls into this pit. It's not a big pit, but he can't get out, maybe because the joints in his legs don't work too well anymore. But instead of just pull him out, which they could do, the tribe just decide to leave him there. I think the thinking is sort of, well, one less mouth to feed now, right? So we'll just chalk that one up to fate. It's a brutal, uncompromising existence for these people. Second tribe's a lot better. There's more class in the second tribe. There's more equality. I think what the film might be saying late on when the two tribes go head to head and the second tribe mostly wins. I think there are more people left alive from the second tribe by the time this film ends, but I think what the overall message is that the way that tribe number one is living is not ultimately how humanity can proceed. It's got to be more the second tribe, with people getting on and learning how to live together, much less cruelty, people sharing, that kind of thing. Although I could be overthinking it, of course. The treatment of women in this film, especially in the first tribe, is absolutely brutal. Like, there's no sexual content in this, there's no rape scenes that you see, but I sort of got the idea of what's going on just off screen. I think in this world, men will often just grab their women when they want to have sex, drag them into the nearest cave corner, do what they want, and then bring the women back to the communal area. I spotted that happening at least a couple of times early on, and there's a moment where, so when Chumac's cast out, his brother watches him go, like all the other tribe members who were stood watching, and then Chumac's brother seems to turn around, spot that Chumac's left his wife, who is now single or something, and thinks, oh, I'll claim her, just grabs her and takes her off for sex or whatever. It's not a nice world to be a woman in, but it's a lot better in the second tribe, the one that Raquel Welch is a part of. One weird thing in this is that the characters never seem to be afraid of the large creatures, which are numerous and all over the place. It's like, how can you not be afraid of them? Like, there's no sentries in any of the camps. Both tribes are guilty of this. They don't have sentries or lookouts. There's no perimeters. Like, at one point, a dinosaur just wanders right into the middle of the communal area of the second tribe. And it's like, what do you expect? Nobody's sat around on the outskirts looking out or anything like that. The characters always seem surprised in this film when a new attack happens. Like, oh, never seen that before. It's like, seriously? This must be like a day-to-day occurrence. How can you not be like properly thinking of the possibility of giant tarantulas and dinosaurs coming out of nowhere? Now, the landscapes in this film are very nicely shot. That this was filmed in the Canary Islands, I think, and the area they found was very suitable because it's all kind of grey and quarry-like, and it feels very dead. It's absolutely the sort of area that I could believe is next to active volcanoes, and there's lots of nice depth in the shots that you get, but at no point do you see any of the large creatures in the distance. I don't know if that's a deliberate thing. You know, if it is, it's genius. It's like the director's kind of like, we're not going to have the humans being able to spot these things in the distances. We're just going to have them pop up from like behind rocks and stuff, and it'll always be a surprise. But I did wonder, how can they not see these things coming when you can clearly see big wide open spaces all over the place? But no, somehow a character will wander around and, oh, a dinosaur or a giant iguana will suddenly pop up from behind the nearest rock. I've only really got one proper negative when it comes to this, though, and it pertains to the Raquel Welch character, Loana. I just feel like her character is very inconsistent in this. So when we first meet her, she's portrayed as a tough cookie. She knows what she's doing. She's clearly somebody who is regarded very highly in her community. She's very comfortable in her surroundings and in this world, seemingly. But then when she leaves the camp to go out into the world with Chumac, she suddenly becomes a very kind of damsel in distress type character. Like, he grabs her in certain danger situations because he doesn't trust her to know the right thing to do, the right way to run. And she's happy for him to grab her in that way, seemingly. So I kind of feel like she changes at times during this film. I'm also not convinced that she would leave her community to go off with Chumac in the first place. I mean, this random bearded guy turns up. He's not very good at catching fish. He gets into arguments easily. Okay, he helps kill a dinosaur, but on the whole, I'm just not seeing her going off with him this quickly and abandoning her really nice little tribe she's got by the sea and all these kids who need help raising. It's a bit of a stretch that she would go off with him like that, I think. But you know what? I still really like the Loana character. I'll quickly show you the version of the film that I've got for this. Here is my Blu-ray copy of 1 Million Years B.C. It's done by Studio Canal. They are always very reliable when it comes to doing Hammer films. The picture quality in this is absolutely tip-top. You will struggle to find a scratch or a blemish on the picture in this film. It looks amazing. There are some features, nothing of great substance, but there's a few things on the disc. So there's an interview with Raquel Welch, which was conducted at the time that this Blu-ray was made, 2016. So I'm guessing she's quite old in the interview. Hopefully she's not still wearing the same outfit. Martine Beswick's done an interview for this as well, so there's a stills gallery, some storyboards and artwork. There's no documentary or audio commentary, which is a shame. I would have loved to have watched stuff like that for this film, but hey ho. Right, shall we get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score I'm going to give this film? I think we should. One, two, three, 4 bloody axes out of 5. I really enjoyed this film. My first instinct was to give it 3.5 out of 5, but then I thought maybe I was being a little bit harsh given the fact that this film is quite old, and in all honesty, very little that I can really pick at when it comes to this. You know, just that little thing to do with Loana, but apart from that, everything else about the film works. It's genuinely terrifying. The creature stuff is great. The interactions between the humans is absolutely fascinating. The landscapes look fantastic. The whole film was pretty much a real pleasure to watch. So I'm quite happy that I've got the right score, 4 out of 5. And it's definitely put me in the right mood to go on and watch more of Hammer's prehistoric dinosaur, cavemen type films, whatever you want to call them. Right, that's all for today. I will leave it there. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.